Good evening. From the military base in Alaska to the breakfast table in Downing Street, the fate of Ukraine is being shaped on two fronts. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are set for their first face-to-face in 6 years, with the Kremlin hailing Trump's energetic and sincere push for peace, and critics warning Kiev is being left out of the room. In London, Keir Starmer and Vladimir Zelensky are projecting unity and cautious optimism, stressing that any ceasefire must come with ironclad security guarantees. Tonight, we examine whether these parallel tracks will converge into a durable peace or collide in compromise. I'm Mona Moselhi, and this is In Focus. The Financial Times says Vladimir Putin has praised Donald Trump's energetic and sincere efforts to end the Ukraine war ahead of their first one-on-one in 6 years at the Elmendorf-Richardson base in Alaska. The summit for excluding Kiev will focus on the war, global security, arms control, and possible U.S.-Russia economic cooperation. Moscow's delegation, led by Finance Minister Anton Siluanov, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and Defense Minister Andrei Belosov, blends military, diplomatic, and commercial priorities. For Putin, the goal appears to be securing a deal on his term while appealing to Trump's appetite for a legacy-defining peace. For Trump, sanctions relief, archaic ventures, and the chance of a trilateral with Zelensky are all on the table, raising the question of whether Alaska will deliver peace or a geopolitical trade-off. Joining us now from Cairo, Dr. Ashraf Singer, world politics analyst at the UMS, to unpack the strategic undercurrent of this high-stakes encounter. Dr. Ashraf, we thank you so much for being with us. And let me start by asking you, Putin's praise for Trump's energetic and sincere efforts in this genuine, or rather, is this genuine diplomacy or kind of calculated flattery?
This summit actually will not achieve a stopping of Ukraine-Russia war so far. Why? There are many reasons. First one, that is Zelensky is not there, and the European leaders, they are not there too. So this summit actually is just between United States and Russia. They're gonna to talk more about arms control and trade. I would say that is Putin will achieve a huge success from this summit than Americans.
Then you think, then at this stage, you think that this is a kind of calculated flattering from Putin,
yeah, I would say that.
to President Trump?
Yeah, I would say that. It seems to me like Putin is really controlling the game, is not the U.S. That switching of the U.S. positions since the first meeting with President Zelensky in the White House, and Zelensky, I would say, was really humiliated completely by Trump and his team. So Putin was so happy at that time, but Trump now, he did change his position to support Ukraine, not directly but indirect, by selling arms to Europe, and give the Europe, the whole situation to face Russia, not the U.S. So it seems to me that level of trust from Europeans and from Ukraine to United States is not really strong like Biden, but Putin, by the end, he really did achieve a huge success of that meeting. First of all, choosing the place, which is Alaska. It's nearby to Russia. I mean, that is Putin will not fly a long distance. Second, uh, Putin, his position very clear. He will not, accept any resolution to leave the territories that is he already occupied. So Trump, in his position to move Putin back, it's pretty hard. Basically, that Russia now is really backing by the Chinese, which means now that is, we have like a unipolar system or two blocks. Russia and China faces Trump or Trump minus Europe, because Europe is not completely in his side now after he made huge disturbance in the transatlantic relationship.
Now, that takes me to ask you, how does excluding Kiev from the Alaska summit alter the dynamics of any potential deal?
This is a very good question, because excluding Kiev from these discussions mean that Trump is not really interested in resolving this conflict sooner. I would say that United States is really gaining a huge benefit of keeping this war of attrition between Russia and Ukraine. United States still sell arms to Ukraine or to Europe. So second, United States really made the situation is pretty lousy over there. That is, U.S. achieved its goal to keep Europe in its orbit. In other words, the European security is not really granted completely by Europeans themselves, but they need the United States to keep backing the EU or the Atlantic member in Europe in faces of Russia. Third, and this is unfortunately that level of trust between Poland and Russia, or between Russia and Finland, or between Russia and Sweden. These guys, or these states now, they are really under huge pressure of uncertainty about the future of decision by Putin. Plus, the European security is not really in a danger because that ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, it's really hard to let Europe really think about their future, how they really can secure their security or their land from any potential aggression by Russia.
But then Trump has hinted at a trilateral follow-up with Zelensky. So do you think, could this be a serious plan or just a way to diffuse criticism? What do you think?
No, I don't think this is really a potential summit that can really stop that war between Ukraine and Russia. First, Russia has a very strong stand about its position, and Zelensky also, or Ukraine, they also had, this strong stand. Particularly the constitutions didn't give the permission or never to allow to the President Zelensky to give up of the Ukrainian territory. So
definitely,
so
but here, President Trump has already said that there will be a follow-up meeting with Zelensky. So do you think Trump made that for just to avoid more criticism, or he did that because he will really follow up with Zelensky, the possibilities? What do you think?
This is just buying of time, based on my assessment. What really I can see clearly for that conflict should be someone get defeated severely, either Russia or Ukraine. So both of them, they have very strong position to keep the conflict on, and this is unfortunately. So it seems to me like this conflict will really uh, stay or be ongoing even after Trump. So the West, this is include the United States and Europe, they really agreed, during Biden, and it seems to me this policy will not change in future to defeat Russia. They need to really let Russia economy exhausted, and now China is backing Russia. So it seems to me like very clear that is Ukraine-Russia war is not just between Ukraine and Russia. It's part of the international domination or hegemony. Who gonna to control the international system, particularly in Europe or in Asia? And this is the major point that United States withdraw by Trump decision from this conflict. And it seems to me without United States, no one can really achieve a defeat. No one can really win that war sooner, but later probably one of these parties, either Ukraine will give up or Russia will give up. But it's a very, very complicated
Right.
conflict, and the consequences is not really positive based on my assessment.
But when you look on the other hand from the Russian side, you find that Moscow's delegation features top defense, foreign policy, and economic figures. Now, what does this mix reveal about the priorities or Russian priorities that are given to such a meeting?
Yeah, Russia actually is very interested about this meeting to explore the opportunities for economic collaborations, particularly not only with the United States, but they include Denmark, Canada, so yeah, so Putin really is buying the time, and also is giving, like I would say, some chance to Russia economy to be revived or, woke up again by that contacting or that summit with Trump. Basically,
Do you think,
go ahead.
Dr. Singer, that economic cooperation, especially in energy and archaic, could become a kind of bargaining chip for the Ukraine issue?
Yeah, it's not about Ukraine. It's about that energy business or energy interest, between United States and Russia. Keep in your mind that Trump, as a businessman, he is running foreign policy and even domestic policy from the business point of his view. So this is very clear that Trump is not really taking, that situation about Ukraine war or Ukraine-Russia war seriously. This is from my point of view. It seems to me is about business that Russia and the United States need really to find or to find something, what we call it, like sharing the market, or find some interest in from that meeting can really give some benefit to Russia and give some benefit to United States. Plus, nuclear arms control. Both of them, they are really interested.
Exactly, that was my next question. How credible do you think is the prospect of reviving strategic arms control talks within the current climate?
It seems to me like both of them, they need really to come to kind of agreement, like arms control agreement, aiming, I'm sorry, to replace or update the existing treaties that even Soviet Union and United States, or Russia and United States made it, long time ago. So it seems to me like both of them, they have that interest because, United States cannot really ignore that capabilities and that possibilities of Russia to move to even threats of using the nuclear weapons. So this is not the nice picture for both of them, and it seems to me like they don't like to move on of increasing that level of deterrence by using the nuclear arms.
But do you think the time is proper, the climate is prepared for such talks?
I think it's a good time, particularly with Trump. I think this is a good point. Is a good time now for Trump because the United States needs really to get that agreement with Putin now. So now is much better than later. Um, the direction of the foreign policy, either for either Russia or the United States or China, it seems to me it's not really moving towards corporations. So now it's a good time that United States needs really to bring Russia, to the bill or the negotiations. So this is can basically United States can really exercise some leverage and on Russia, and it seems to me like Putin probably does need that approach from the United States in sake of achieving some profit or some benefit of for Russia. And it seems to me Putin eager to get that agreement also and to be in good relationship with the United States, particularly that United States its foreign policy now is about making business more than making stable or policy in Europe or the security of Europe.
Right. Alaska tomorrow and remains to be seen. Dr. Ashraf Singer, thank you so much for your insights into the complex dance of politics and profit at the Alaska summit. Now, Putin's warm words for Trump may set the tone in Alaska, but in London the tone was one of guarded optimism and firm red lines. While Washington and Moscow prepare to talk, Europe's leaders are quietly working to ensure Ukraine's interests are not traded away. The Evening Standard reports that Sir Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelensky agreed there is a strong resolve for peace and a viable chance of a ceasefire, but only if Vladimir Putin proves he is serious. Meeting over a private breakfast in Downing Street, they discussed the security guarantees needed to make any deal durable. As Europe braces for the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska, optimism is tempered by fears Kiev could be sidelined, especially after Trump suggested swapping of land, a proposal Ukraine rejects outright. London is co-chairing the coalition of the willing to prepare a peacekeeping force and is under pressure to join NATO's Pearl weapon supply program. Both leaders pledged to stay in close contact as the Alaska talks unfold. Right, joining us now is Mr. Meher Nikos Vili, Director of the EU Asian Centre, to explore whether this European show of unity can hold under the pressure of great power bargaining. Now, how significant is the symbolism of Starmer hosting Zelensky's just before the Alaska summit?
I'm delighted to join you today. I think the symbolism is ambiguous. And of course, Zelensky himself knows that the embrace of Keir Starmer is now very ambiguous, but he has no choice, right? So it's better to have a half-hearted embrace and support than to have none. Why am I saying so? Because something very interesting happened literally in the past 3-4 days. We're starting to see a very strong nuance between, on the one hand, France, Germany, the European Commission, and these entities, the French government, the Germans, and the EU Commission led by Ursula von der Leyen. You can call them hardliner. They're really pro-Ukraine, anti-Russian hardliners. And what's fascinating, in a very polite and diplomatic manner, because Keir Starmer is a very gentle and polite person, but literally in the past 3-4 days, he has distanced himself from Macron and von der Leyen very politely. And so why do you distance yourself politely? By like a painter, when you're painting a tableau, you use nuances. So what Starmer said before welcoming Zelensky to London today what he said is that he fully agreed with the EU Commission and with Emmanuel Macron, but unlike them, he was quite optimistic about the outcome of the Anchorage summit between Trump and Putin. That's something very interesting because for the past 3 days, the words used by Macron, von der Leyen, and Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz about that Anchorage summit between America and Russia have been very negative. So here we hear something interesting in London. We hear a very positive description of the potential outcome of the Anchorage summit. Something else which is interesting, and I think that's very interesting, a year ago, what did we have in America? We had the presidential election campaign, right? Mm-hmm. And before it was Kamala Harris, initially, it was Joe Biden against Donald Trump. And during that presidential campaign in America 1 year ago, clearly Keir Starmer, just like Emmanuel Macron, backed Joe Biden, and he was very critical of Trump, the candidate. But the minute Trump won the election in November, Keir Starmer started to shift. Why am I saying that? Because there is a term which is now being used by the European Commission and the French government and even the British government. It's the coalition of the willing. So that expression, coalition of the willing, is used to describe the most pro-Ukraine countries and, as a consequence, the most anti-Russian countries. And that expression, coalition of the willing, is a wink to George Bush and Dick Cheney, because in the year 2002, when they could not have a UN legal resolution justifying the invasion of Iraq, what George Bush and Dick Cheney did with the support of Tony Blair in London, they came up with that expression, coalition of the willing, to give themselves a legal cover to justify the invasion of Iraq because they had no UN resolution. So a year ago, Joe Biden and Keir Starmer came up with the same expression, coalition of the willing, applying it against Russia, saying that we are the most pro-Ukrainian countries, and even if President Trump, God forbid, wins the presidential election in America, we, the British and the French and the Germans, we will keep on supporting Ukraine. So of course, fast forward today, Keir Starmer is distancing himself from that pro-Ukraine stance, and the French and the European Union and the Germans, they are clinging desperately to that extreme pro-Ukraine, anti-Russian stance. So what I'm coming at is now London's support for Ukraine is not that strong, it's half-hearted, but I think President Zelensky is so desperate that he's willing to accept a lukewarm, half-hearted support from Keir Starmer because it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think Europe's strong resolve translate into tangible influence over a US-Russia meeting here and a real deal?
Sadly for the European, the short answer is no, because something tragic happened for Europe precisely 17 days ago. And it happened in Britain, in northern Scotland, in the city of Aberdeen, if you remember.
Now, before I get to remember, what are you saying here? You're saying here that there might be a deal despite Europe's resolve, despite all the climate and all what appears to be. Is this what you're saying here?
I'm saying Europe has very little say. So basically, Europe now, following the Aberdeen summit 17 days ago, Europe's wings have been clipped because, before the Aberdeen summit, Europe pretended to be a superpower in the field of economics, finance, GDP growth, and military issues. And when Ursula von der Leyen yielded to Trump in Aberdeen 17 days ago, the whole world, including Russia and China, was able to observe that it was a lie. Europe is not a superpower. And so now it's a very diminished, after its defeat in Aberdeen, it's a very diminished Europe today. And they are diminished, and they are trying trying clumsily to have an impact. So what did they do in the past 2 days? They held video meetings with Trump yesterday and the day before, begging him not to, quote unquote, sell out the Ukrainian cause, begging him to have a tough stance vis-a-vis Russia. And what Trump did
But
in
then,
the past 2 days.
Then what do they have in hand? What would be a viable security guarantee, or how it would look like outside of NATO membership?
So they don't have much in hand because the train has passed. The train has passed. And what's happening in Anchorage, Alaska, tomorrow is basically a redrawing. It's a redrawing of Eastern Europe's borders. Now, Trump is not saying it as bluntly or as aggressively, but that is what's happening. And what's crazy for Europe, it's happening in Anchorage, which is on the border between northeastern Eurasia, Russia, and northwestern America, the US. And Anchorage is 4,000 kilometers away from Paris, Brussels, and Berlin. So it's a humiliation of Europe because Europe's destiny is being decided away from them.
Do you think this coalition of willing peacekeeping forces, could this kind of or this proposal be accepted, and can it be effective without US troops?
Once again, the short answer is no, because when they came up with the concept, right, when Biden and Clinton and Keir Starmer himself came up with the concept a year ago, they were sending a message to Trump telling him, we don't care about you, even if you win the election in November, even if the Democrats are defeated, we don't care. We are willing, we have the desire and the power to send troops in Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. So now Keir Starmer is saying, literally, Britain will never, ever send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine, right? So what does it mean? It means that France and Germany are alone. And without America's support, without Britain's support, neither France nor Germany have the military capacity or the political willing to send peacekeeping troops in eastern Ukraine to maintain the peace.
But then
so
but then what do you have towards UK's participation in the Pearl Weapons Supply Initiative for sustaining Ukraine's defense capacity?
This is what I meant by half-hearted. So the British did not brutally, completely shift like Trump did, and they are still supporting Ukraine militarily and diplomatically, but less than they used to 2 weeks ago or 1 month ago, right? So the British are, to make a long story short, British taxpayers today are still paying to buy and send military equipment and missiles and ammunitions to Ukraine every day. But they're doing it less, if you will, less than 2 weeks ago or months ago. So it means that they're starting very, very slowly to pull the plug, on Ukraine. And so now the main countries supporting Ukraine are really France, Germany, and Poland, but it's not enough. It's far from enough. And that's what I meant by the train has passed. Ukraine's chance has passed. We are now shifting to a different era, and that is why Trump is going to encourage Alaska. Why the choice of Alaska? Because Trump and the new government in Washington, D.C., policy thinkers in Washington, they are obsessed by one thing, the techno-industrial military race with China. To them, all the rest, including Europe, Ukraine, whatever, is irrelevant. So because they are obsessed by the new great game, that techno-industrial rivalry with China, they believe in Washington that they should not push Russia into the arms of China.
Right. Remains to be seen. Tomorrow is the very anticipated day. Now, but here, Mr. Mayor, we thank you so much for helping us unpack the delicate balance between optimism and caution as Europe prepares for the Alaska outcome. From Anchorage to Westminster, the choreography of diplomacy is moving fast. In Alaska, the stakes are nothing less than war and peace. In London, the message is unity without surrender. Whether the Alaska summit produces a breakthrough or a bitter compromise will depend on more than the handshakes. It will hang on whether promises made in private rooms can withstand the weight of a battlefield still in motion. This was In Focus. Many thanks for watching and good night.